Hey everyone, welcome to the Script and Style Show, the web show where we talk about web development and the people that make it happen. I'm Todd Gardner from Track.js JavaScript Error Monitoring, and my co-host David Walsh, creator of the popular and ever-present on Google blog, davidwalsh.name. How's it going today, David?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, good. Are you great? I mean, you were gone last week. What was up?
I'm greater.
Greater.
I have to apologize to all of our audience as well as yourself for having to cancel last week. I was
all six of you. Bye.
I was on like deathbed cold. My throat I sounded like a mix of Louis Armstrong and the sound your dog makes when you grab their tail and pull. Right? It was just I couldn't speak words. I needed to go to the hospital. It was terrible. But I feel great today. I'm excited to be here. And we're going to have a good show today.
Well, I'm glad you're feeling better. So we have a guest on our show today.
That we do.
We have Miss Jennifer Wadella joining us on the show today. Jennifer is a JavaScript developer, the champion of PubConf Sydney, an internationally renowned speaker, and the mastermind behind KC Women in Tech, and a number of other fantastic organizations. So thanks so much for joining us on the show.
Thanks for not calling me Jen, like Lars does.
Well, I mean, I swear I've seen Jen on some materials.
If you have, it's because I haven't gotten through my threats to break kneecaps if they call me Jen. So
gotcha. Well, I'm glad my kneecaps will not be broken today.
You normally get one warning.
One warning. All right. Well, I didn't even say it and I still got a warning.
Yes. I'm just going to circumvent it right there.
Just cutting it off. All right. Yep. Well, so we like to start off our conversations by learning a little bit about how you got into this field, like your superhero origin story. What got you into software, or what got you into the web? What got you interested in this world?
MySpace.com.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, I feel like that's the pathway of a lot of women who are my age. Is we were on the internet and we were building MySpace and Zanga pages and building layouts and putting sparkling stars dropping from JavaScript to express our inner teenage angst. And so that's how I got started. And then I was a smart kid, so I had free periods and would just get bored and build GeoCities websites for my Halo clan. Yeah. Yeah. And so went to school for graphic design and business management, thought I wanted to be a creative director, graduated, the economy was shit, nobody would hire me unless I could develop websites as well as build them. And so then I started building more robust websites than my Halo clan page.
What was your Halo clan?
Well, for a while I was in a clan called the Trojan Killers. And then I was in a clan called the Bells, which was with a couple women I had met. And then actually, what's hilarious is there's this huge clan called PMS, formerly known as the Psychotic Manslayers. They're now Pandora's Mighty Soldiers. But you had to audition to get in. They were the best fucking chick clan out there. And I auditioned, and I remember it was the day of my 18th birthday that I made it into their elite alpha squad, which was their best Halo 2 squad. And it was the best birthday ever.
That's awesome.
Nerd.
Not at all. I had a StarCraft clan and a Counter-Strike clan, but we didn't have these cool sounding names. We were intentionally trying to just be ridiculous. We were the Happy Puppy clan.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's an ominous, menacing name.
Well, because you feel really bad about yourself if you just lost to the Happy Puppy clan.
It's valid.
All right, so you were building websites for people.
Yep.
So you migrated from creative director to you had to build full websites, and then did you love it, or was it just a job?
Yeah, so I had landed a couple jobs at mom and pop shops. So I'd typically be the only in-house developer designer, and it was back in the IE8 days, and when I'd get really excited about fixing a CSS bug in IE8, they're like, what are you talking about? Just no context or understanding of what I was doing. And then hop, skip, and a jump, a recruiter got a hold of me, found out my salary, and was like, oh, sweetie. And talked me into applying for a developer only role at a big marketing agency. And so I was a little intimidated, but did it. And then freaking loved it. Loved the people that I interviewed with, loved the team I got landed on, and then never looked back. And I also haven't had to fight with a customer about making the logo bigger. So I spent a lot of time when I was designing on that website, Clients from Hell, for the solidarity.
Yeah, I understand. I interacted with like that kind of web consulting for a while. I did that for a while, and then there's a bunch of people in the area who do that, and it can be pretty challenging. You did that for a while, David, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I had spent almost 5 years doing said thing. And while I'm not the design type, they even had me be the point of contact for the customer, right? And so it's impossible. I just want to code. That's all. I just want to geek out, nerd out. I don't want to schmooze.
It takes a special kind of personality to be able to like patiently talk to a customer who has no idea how the technology works and be able to translate that.
Well, the thing is, I was like good at talking to people. I just didn't want to do it. I wanted to be locked in a room with just, a website to work on, none of the other stuff. So I feel your pain with that regard.
So that was you too, Jennifer. You hated interacting with the customers, moved to a full dev role, and haven't looked back.
Yeah, and I don't even think it was like the hating interacting with them at that point in my life. Although me as an adult, I look back and I'm like, fuck no, never again. But yeah, it was just an opportunity. And then that was my first time working alongside like other developers. And it just like blew my mind. Like people who get me, hooray! And then never looked back.
Finally, you could commiserate on that IE8 CSS bug. And
yes,
people
and
were like,
also,
oh, I know what you're talking about.
And they get my memes and my Reddit jokes.
Welcome to the internet.
Oh, God.
So lately you've jumped on React development, yeah?
Yes.
So React's been like kind of the new hotness for some time. It's kind of the old hotness at this point.
Yeah.
What was keeping you away from doing React up until now?
Mostly because I'm in Kansas City, and Kansas City is super .NET heavy, and they love pairing Angular with that. And so it's just like most of the projects I've been on have been Angular. And because like I do a million things, like speak and run a nonprofit and try and work out and brew kombucha, that leaves limited time for exploring new libraries. But I'm on fun employment right now, which is like my time where I like go through my tech bucket list of everything I want to play with, and React was at the top.
Yeah, Angular definitely seems to have its hooks into that big enterprise kind of space. I mean, it's very reminiscent of like old .NET, old Java, like web development frameworks. I think they just rock towards like, ooh, crazy levels of inheritance. Let's do that.
Yeah. So anyway.
So now's the time for you to play with React. You're fun employed, looking for your next thing, and you're just trying to like see what's going on in the world. So what do you like about it?
So I actually like just wrote a blog post about this, which is funny because I started building with Gatsby because I'm lazy as fuck, right? And I don't want to like do anything from scratch because it's 2018 and we're way past that. Like, give me a generator. But I really like a lot of just like the way the components are put together. It's just like if you're coming from Angular land, okay, you create a new component, you got to inject it here, you got to inject it here, you got to make sure all your dependencies are in line. And I feel like all that just does not exist from the point that I've been dealing with it in React right now. It's like I've got a website up in a day, and it was amazing fast. So that's cool. But I've also been getting more into like performance optimization and stuff like that. Again, it hasn't been a priority at some of my past clients or projects that I've been working on, but just everything is there and ready and implementable. And it's just like, boom.
So the ecosystem around React is just there to support you and get you what you want to. Well,
I would say more Gatsby than React at this point. The React ecosystem is like a little bit overwhelming. You walk in and you're like, ah, like what is going on? I'm so far behind. But like picking a point to get started on and then being able to expand is my preferred approach to learning new tech. So, because if you just like type, how do I write React? It's just like, oh God. So yes.
So let's talk about your project then. So you're trying to solve a project or a problem. What is your project right now?
So I just finished refactoring my personal website. So it was like,
that's JenniferWadella.com.
Yeah, JenniferWadella.com. And I had not have a website for years just because I was being like obnoxious. And I was like, I don't need a website. My good work will speak for itself. And then, Jennifer, that's not how marketing works, you dumbass.
Yeah, the carpenter's children have no shoes kind of thing.
Right. And so finally I was like, oh, okay, I'll build a website. I just threw something up really quickly on Jekyll, which is just, static markdown site generator. And it was fine, but I just kind of like left it at that and dumped stuff into it. And as I joke about, because I was like too lazy to design or do typography, I just threw a bunch of images in there to make it look better. But of course that makes it slow. And so anyway, took that monstrosity and refactored it using a Gatsby starter pack.
So like between Jekyll and then Gatsby, like what are some of the advantages that you found when you made that move, or some of the stuff that you learned?
Well, a couple of the different things are, I feel like Gatsby is just built for like front end development tools. Like I go in and I get started with Jekyll, and like if I nest more than 2 CSS selectors, like I'm a hot fucking mess until I get less or something to deal with. And so it's just like, it took me a while to like get that implemented and get that all set up. And then like, they're not set up with minifying builds, or like, they're not just Jekyll as at its base is not set up for modern web development and the way we're used to dealing with it. And so that's why it was really nice to jump into Gatsby and have all these tools at my disposal, which aren't things that I feel like I should have to spend a lot of energy or effort on implementing because they're so standard. Like, no, it should just be something I do really quickly instead of having to like pull a million different things together for something that I consider basic. And so it was nice from that standpoint. And again,
what are some of those things? What do you consider basic that it just does out of the box for you?
So like just bundling is a big deal. Cause obviously like I'm going to be writing CSS and doing stuff. So having something that's bundling and minifying right off the bat is fantastic. But other really random things like, an easy way to handle SEO. So if I want to like have a general layout, but I want to be changing in different like titles and keyword tags based on my blogs and content, like I did it in Jekyll and it was fine. But I did it in like a fraction of the time in Gatsby because React Helmet was already set up and ready to go. Trying to think what else I really loved. Image optimization was fantastic because I didn't even fucking bother to attempt that with my Jekyll site. Just using Gatsby image was like handled everything, except it doesn't handle GIFs, which is really, really bad because I love my reaction GIFs. So I'm a little salty about that. Like I understand why, but I love GIFs. I'm sorry. Trying to think what else I liked a lot. Being able to have everything in JSON versus YAML, because like JavaScript kid. So it was kind of cool. Like if I wanted to like dump in my speaking or any press articles or anything like that, I could just throw it in a JSON file and render it via GraphQL using like the JSON transformer for that, where it like just magically pulls all my shit as long as my I don't have any typos or missing commas.
I need to try something. Like, have you tried something like Gatsby before? I think the closest that I ever got, Todd, was like Create React App. But I know it's not a static site generator, but it does get you up and running with React. Like, what sort of stuff have you worked with?
Well, I've used a lot of Jekyll and a little bit of Gatsby. I like all of the sites that I maintain are written in Jekyll today. Like TrekJS.com, the doc site, my personal site, PubConf site, they're all written in Jekyll. And I've looked at Gatsby a few times. I just have this dirty little secret that I don't actually write much JavaScript on the front. Like I write a lot of HTML and it just and Sass and then just ship it, and it seems to work okay. And then I dip my toe in Gatsby and I'm like, ooh, this is far too much JavaScript.
Well, then read my blog about all the stupid shit I did the first time around, so you won't have to.
I will. So is it all, honeymoons and roses with Gatsby, or is there stuff you don't like about it?
I haven't hit anything I don't like about it, but I feel like, anytime you're in the static space, it's like, I mean, the most complex thing, like I have one stateful component in it. It's like my fucking toggle nav, right, for a mobile view. So, I mean, I feel like I haven't gotten enough into it to run into anything other than like somebody needs to prioritize optimizing my GIFs.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a problem. I have this the tiny PNG plugin into my IDE, and I just have to like run every image like 6 times through that before I publish it to get it to appropriate size.
Burp.
I know. I wish it was automatic, but
Gatsby's open source though, so that's something that someone could jump into and create a fix Jennifer's GIFs
Yes, absolutely.
component.
Or like I was kind of talking with some of the guys that help contribute to that, and anytime I was like having a concern, they're like, "Hey, if this isn't good enough, submit a pull request. Like, make this better, make it more readable for somebody like super new to the ecosystem." So I love how like they do all the community stuff, right? Like React people, they're like, "Well, how do you not know this already?" And it's like, "Well, because I've been doing other things with my life. Like, what do I fucking say here?" But like the Gatsby community is like, yes, learn, be better together, which I'm all about. So
Gatsby uses React to render HTML on the server during build time to generate a static site.
Yes.
So is React involved at the client side when it's done? Like the static assets that you ship down, is React still in it?
I mean, I think a little bit from like an interactive point, but I mean, the core goal of this is like you're rendering these full HTML pages to your client. And so that's really good for like SEO and crawling. Or if you're like me and just make a lot of dumb typos, you can never ship a stupid error that you'd have to go to Track.js to be oh, did we find out why it really doesn't use it? Because my compiler will blow up right away. And I'm like, oh, Jennifer, you dumbass, look what you did now. But nobody else sees it, just me and my console.
So is there any differences, or have you run into any issues with running React during the build time that's maybe a weird thing versus running it on the client side?
Yeah, there were a couple weird things, and I feel like I'm not intentionally doing this, but one of the things I got hung up on was I put some of my styles in a weird place, and it was fine in development mode, and then I tried to deploy and shit hit the fan. So yeah.
So where did you put them? Like what happened? What was
so I had I'm JavaScript kid, like coming from Angular, you've got kind of like your entry component where you can put your base style sheet and then you can import your other style sheets, not a big deal. So I'm just like, what's the top level JavaScript file I can find, because we're putting everything in JavaScript, right? And inject my style sheet there. Well, I was using a layout component that unfortunately I didn't realize was getting loaded and unloaded on every page, and so it caused some wonkiness where my styles weren't appearing when I'd want them to, and it was doing that subsequent reloading instead of placing them where they should have lived in the first place, which was the Gatsby browser file. So yeah.
Gotcha.
Yes.
That is weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. I don't know. And it was just like, I was like, how did I miss this in the documentation? But I'm also just like code first, read second. So
all of us great developers are.
Thank you.
So switching gears a little bit, let's talk about KC Women in Tech. How did it come about? What do you guys do? Just tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, for sure. So it's been around for about 5 years now. I think I started it in February of 2013. And so part of it was because I had landed like my first full-time Big Kit developer job, really got immersed in the tech community. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I want to find a way to give back, but also like where all the other ladies at. And nothing against any of the guys like in the community or that I worked with. They were all great human beings, but like there was just something missing, you know? So I had this idea to start like a nonprofit to get more women in tech, to get to know each other. I thought like we were going to have this like kickoff meetup where like all these other like women engineers were going to descend, and it was going to be like puppies and rainbows and sunshine, and we were going to bond and talk. And that's not at all what happened. We had a launch party, and like I think about 300 people showed up, and we had everybody from like educators wanting to bring code to their classrooms to women wanting to like get into the tech industry and having no idea how. But not a lot of women who were like me. And so that really shaped the trajectory of our organization. And so we've always been really responsive to the needs of our community. So one of the first things we launched was a chapter of Coder Dojo, which is a global nonprofit that teaches kids how to code for free. And we do K through 12, all kiddos, regardless of gender identity, because we want this idea that coding is for anyone, right? Like it's not weird no matter who you are. And then launched a couple programs out of that because we would have really unfortunate responses from parents about Coder Dojo sometimes, where they'd say, oh, well, you know, I don't think my daughter would like coding, but I'll bring my son. And we're like, okay, like, what do you do? Well, you brand it, you make it pink, you make it girly, and all of a sudden the parents think it's girl appropriate. At the end of the day, I still have 8-year-old girls like deploying their cupcake websites to GitHub pages via the command line. So I don't give a shit what color it is. But anyway, and then from there we launched Coding in Cocktails, which is our series for adult women wanting to get into either like front-end development as a career path, or maybe they were in the tech industry years ago and, you know, took some time off or whatever and have come back in and gone like, what the fuck did you people do to JavaScript? And so that's a really fun series. We run monthly networking events that are kind of like tech agnostic. So they might cover BSA tracks or data science tracks. And then a variety of workshops like Django Girls, excuse me. We'll probably be adding NG Girls this year. So yeah.
So this isn't just like a every Tuesday night meetup. This is a huge thing where you're getting children involved. You're bringing people back into tech.
Mm-hmm.
How can you manage all of this stuff?
I actually do a talk on that. It's called Hacking Your Work-Life Blank Balance to Take Over the World. And so I kind of talk about how I manage all this. Because like with Casey Witt, we're an entirely volunteer-run organization. None of us are paid. So I have about 50 people on our team that are running day-to-day operations. We've got teams built around our programs that are making sure those execute. We've got a team who's managing our social media, who's handling strategic partnerships. So a lot of it is just really good structure, excellent communication. We're really committed to continuous improvement. We run retrospectives after every event we do, and then take feedback and figure out how we can implement those changes to make programs better in the future. So a lot of it is really about just building a really good culture of a team that is built to be effective, built to make things happen, but also prioritize work-life blank balance.
That's amazing. One of the obvious issues right now in the tech industry is diversity.
What?
I heard. What are some of the ways that you've learned either throughout your career or through running this program that organizations can better incorporate diverse people and ensure that the attitude around everyone is respect and inclusion?
Yeah, and I feel like that's really, really hard because the first step is obviously empathy and understanding that just because someone else's experiences don't match their own doesn't make that other person's experiences invalid. And I feel like this is a struggle women have a lot, is because like we get harassed all the time, like, and all this shit happens and guys are like, there's no way it happens that much. And then they switch email addresses with us for a day and we've all read that article, right? So that first step is like empathy and understanding. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. But then being willing to step up, call out bad behavior, but also understand that you really need to lead from the top. And you can lead by example and by your actions. And so being very conscious and cognitive of the way your actions affect other people, I think goes a long way. Just having that level of introspection and realizing that what you do and the way it affects other people matters.
Yeah, I think that a lot could be learned from that. I like a lot of times you want to shorten it into "don't be a douchebag," but it's obviously much more of an issue there. I find it really interesting. I think it's really cool that you try and bring kids in for some early coding lessons. I also feel like it's kind of sad that I'll bring my son but not my daughter. What are some of the first projects and concepts that you try and impart on kids to sort of set them up to succeed growing up as a coder?
Yeah, so I'm really proud of everything we do at Coder Dojo. Like we are very cognitive and conscious about everything we do. And so that program, we tried to make it as learning level agnostic as we could, meaning you can come in if you've never written code before in your life and we'll get you started on scratch. Or we also wanted to serve like 14-year-old kids that have gone through every computer class in their school and they're like, how do I get more? And their teachers are like, oh, I don't know what to tell you. So we try and make sure we're serving that entire range. But the way we structure our sessions is they're 3 hours long, which is good enough for us to have a kickoff presentation, give them a lot of work time, and then do presentations at the end. And so what we do is we always have a project prompt, and this will be some sort of programming aspect, whether it's dealing with inputs or dealing with lists or using random or some sort of, or for loops, some sort of very like big picture programming concept. And then the kids can use whatever tech stack they want. So we've got a lot of kiddos on Scratch, but some of them have upgraded to HTML, some are JavaScript. We had a kid come in and he's like, I want to learn MySQL. And we're like, okay, let's find a tutorial. But so they can do anything they want. And as long as they're using whatever that lesson is in their presentation or their project, they can line up and get their presentation checked in to present. And because a big thing we're trying to do is teach more than just coding. Like coding is one part of it, but we want to create like really well-rounded developers, right? And so we want them to get up on stage and talk through their projects. And one of the questions we ask them is, what is the hardest thing you had to figure out? Because again, we want to create a generation of engineers that is not going to look for the next step in a textbook. They're going to look for ways to like, break through and figure out whatever they want to do. And we encourage that by having them discuss what was the hardest thing and having them realize that just because it was hard didn't mean they couldn't figure out how to do it. And then as well as, kids who are less advanced than them, they can look at that and kind of have that aspect to it. And we also have a junior mentor program that's integrated into this. So kiddos that have been, I'm trying to remember what our requirements are. I think they have to have attended 6 sessions and have at least 1 mastery badge, which is kind of like our progression tracking. And they can become a junior mentor. And that means they get to come in early. So before everybody's there, so they help with setup, they get to interact with the older mentors, and they help get kids seated. They help get them set up on Wi-Fi. They help get them started with their projects for the first part of the session. And then they can go and work on their own stuff. But that way we're building those leadership skills, pushing this idea of mentoring and building community. I'm very proud.
Yeah, you should be. That sounds amazing. How can people support you guys? How can we bring more attention to your organization and add to it?
Absolutely. So we always need donations. You can go to kcwomenintech.org/donate because we are trying to grow and bring on some staff because just we are growing and out of control. Like we've had to move venues several times. Like people are like, why aren't there more women in tech? Our coding and cocktails classes for women like sell out every January with a wait list of like 80+ women trying to get in.
Wow.
So like we literally need brick and mortar space. And so donations can help us a lot. We love sharing what we do. A lot of cities have reached out to us saying, hey, we want to build the kind of community you have. We love having people come shadow our programs and seeing the way we do things and taking, our hard-learned lessons back and implementing them in their own community. So better together.
Awesome.
Yep.
So let's take this back for a moment. When we first started about your origin story, so much of like what you've done in tech has been centered around or influenced by gaming. Where did that all come from?
God, I'm trying to remember. So my dad brought home a computer probably when I was like 8 or 9. I loved Wolfenstein from like the moment I played it. But I was so young that like it was scary, right? And I would have nightmares and wake up screaming, and my mom was fucking sick of like having to wake up in the middle of the night to go console me that she would just ground me from playing for like a week so she could sleep. I'd get ungrounded, go right back to playing it, rinse and repeat. Anyway, so I always loved those kind of games. Got into Counter-Strike probably early high school, and then the Xbox came out.
What was the Counter-Strike you played? I played a lot of Counter-Strike in high school. What versions were you playing during?
Was it 1.6?
Okay.
God, it's been so long. Yeah, and then like, but anyway, like, and Counter-Strike was fun and I liked it. And I always played Postal Service in the background too. So like anytime I play Postal Service now, I will get reminded of like Counter-Strike maps. But yeah, no, so the Xbox came out, like one of my guy friends got one and like we played through the first couple maps of Halo and I was like fucking hooked and all my money went towards saving for my own damn Xbox. And then I just played Counter-Strike like while saving up for my Xbox. And then Xbox Live came out in Halo 2 and it was like, oof, hooked for life, baby.
Hooked for life.
Yes.
And so you played so much Halo that you said you used to be a pro gamer.
Yeah.
So tell us about that. What does that mean? What is a pro gamer for Halo? What does that mean?
Okay, so like back in my day, because I feel like a lot of us were about the same age that came onto the circuit, because like Halo came out when we were probably like 14, 15, 16, 17, and like we're addicted, and that's what we did. Like we had LAN parties with our friends, like that was our life, right? And so Xbox Live came out, which, you know, connected everybody on Halo 2. So all of a sudden you're playing with people. I told you I auditioned for this chick clan and got into like their top tier level, and we would run drills, we would run strategies, like we had practice, stuff like that. And some of the girls had started going to tournaments at the time. MLG was the big one. Mm-hmm. And MLG is still one of the most predominant ones on the circuit. But So I was like, this is amazing. I really want to do this. And so I got together with a couple of the women because like our Alpha clan, there was probably between like 18 and 30 of us as any given time. It is people like rotated on and off. And so like paired up with a couple women who were in the Alpha clan, and we were like, okay, we're going to do a team. We're going to register and we're going to compete in MLG Philly. So I'm like 18 years old flying by myself to Philadelphia. My parents are like, oh my God, my daughter's meeting people from the internet. And competed in my first tournament. It was like hilarious. And, you know, we're all like poor because we're not grown ass adults with like nice cushy software engineering jobs. And so like there's 6 of us and we're crammed in a hotel room and we've pushed the 2 queen beds together. So we're like all sleeping across the beds and up all night, like practicing and playing Halo down in the lobbies. And then you go and compete. And so MLG at the time was just phasing out Halo 1 into Halo 2. And so I can't remember if we competed in both at that tournament. But so what happens is you go in and you do free for all. And depending on where your teammates rank in free for all, depends on where you get put in the bracket. And it's kind of like double elimination. And I don't even remember how well we did, but oh my gosh, it was so much fun. And so I started, going to conferences, or excuse me, not conferences, tournaments whenever I could. Like we would drive to like MLG, Chicago, or stuff that was close. Went to a couple other ones, like World Series of Video Games was another one. So we went to Louisville, we did Dallas for that one. And so, and the cool thing was because I was part of like this chick clan, we did get diversity sponsorship because people were like, yay, more women in games. Like here's money to go to tournaments. And so we're like, hell yeah. And so it was a fun part of my life. And like, right as I was scaling out of it, because I had to like pay attention in college and like fucking graduate, like the 14-year-olds like that had come in, had started doing really well and were like taking Adderall as performance enhancing drugs. And like, you know what 14-year-old boys are like, right? And so the conferences or the tournaments getting like kicked out of hotels because the 14-year-olds are like trashing the place. And anyway, but yeah.
I feel like that is a phase that all gamers go through, is when you realize that you can't keep up with the 14, 15-year-olds who literally can pour 12 hours a day into something.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, you don't have homework or like anal college professors to deal with.
Like I have a job and things to do. I can't play games that much anymore.
Yeah. I mean, like some people had an early enough start. Like a lot of the early programmers were from Ohio, like the Ogre Twins. Trying to think, I think Walshy was from that area, but they had all been landing Halo 1 for like years. And so they had the advantage of like this huge community to compete and get better against, even before XBL was a thing. So anyway.
So you stopped doing it when you needed to like graduate. Was that it? You just didn't have time to do it?
Yeah, it was kind of like, all right, I need to put on my big kid pants. Like, I'm probably not going to make, enough money to ever do this professionally. Like, I need to graduate. I need to get into the real world. And so that was part of it. But I mean, like, it's still like, I will hop on like Halo 5 and get on and spank some kids and talk shit. Like, I will do that every day for the rest of my life, probably. So as long as there's Halo and as long as freaking 343 hasn't fucked it up too much.
I was always a Call of Duty guy. That was always my game.
Yeah.
But now that I play PUBG, I always get the Walshy, is that you? Because apparently this awesome Halo player's real name was David Walsh.
Yeah.
So usually I get like, are you that David Walsh in the tech community? And then I try and play games to get away from tech, and I get hit with the Walshy thing all the time.
That's hilarious. Actually, like people ask me about my Twitter handle all the time, which is like OMG it's Fetty. And so my gaming handle was PMS Fedaikin, and nobody could ever say that. So everybody just called me Fetty. But that was the thing at the time, is like everybody would want to play with the pro players. And so the pro players all had alt accounts, and they'd be something like, OMG, is that the real Ogre? OMG, is that the real Walshy? And so, yeah.
It's always sad to say, no, I'm not that Walsh.
Have you ever said, yes, you are that real Walsh? And just...
I don't know how to answer that.
That's a yes.
Last week I was playing and somebody said to me, oh, David, I love your blog. But I think that like there was no way they would have known it was me.
Yeah.
So I actually got hit with the real David Walsh, when I'm usually hit with the other David Walsh. And I was frozen. I didn't know what to say. It was hard. But another thing that I've experienced in the gaming community, especially with first-person shooters, it seems like the community can be really toxic, or certain random partners can be incredibly toxic. How do you deal with that sort of community sometimes, especially being, as you mentioned, being a woman in the gaming community? That's even more unfriendly. How did you deal with it? How did you sort of come to terms with that was sort of the way things were in gaming?
So yeah, because like I'm on Xbox Live. I don't remember if I was like somewhere in the 14 to 16 range, right? And I got told to suck a dick more times than I can even count before I was even sexually active. And so like for a long time, I would get so mad and so upset when I'd hear shit like, "Oh, girls can't play video games. You shouldn't be on here," you know? And I would get so mad. And the clan I was playing at the time was like a bunch of like burly dudes, and they were a bunch of assholes, but they would stand up for me and they would fucking fire back, and they taught me how to trash talk. So, and I was like such an innocent little, like, I was super religious. Like I led like the Christian club at my middle school. Like you have no idea. And so this is just like whole new world for me. And so learn how to trash talk, learn how to throw shit back, and like guys will hear my voice or see my tag or my handle or whatever, and like say shit. And I'm like, you know what, motherfucker, when you're on the top of the scoreboard, then you can talk shit. But until you're kicking my ass, shut the fuck up. And then of course, like they get told off by a girl and all the other guys are like, oh, but so for me personally, like I just learned to have that thick skin and learned to throw back some pretty nasty retorts. And so that, you know, shut it up a lot. And so I've, you know, had a thick skin and could handle a lot of that, but that isn't the case for everybody. And it's not fair to say what worked for me as a woman should have to be what all women have to do to survive. And I don't believe in that at all. But anyway, that was my norm, right? For years. And there was one time I was hanging out with a group of friends in IRC, and we were just like talking, and my friend Jasper pops in and she's like, haha, I just got another message. It's funny. I'm always either fat, ugly, or a slut. And one of our other friends, Grace or GTZ, was like, what are you talking about? She never played online. So she was completely unaware of this like trash talking phenomenon or like sexist crap that we dealt with playing online games. And she's like, oh my God, this happens. And we're like, haha, yeah. Like, and this was still like MySpace was still around. My girlfriends and I had like MySpace galleries of dick pics we had gotten on Xbox Live that we would make fun of and like caption and be like, haha, funny, this one looks like a penis, only smaller. Like, but this was like mind blowing to our friend who had never played online. And she's like, oh my God, you guys, we need to make a website or something. And so that was the birth of our website, fatuglyerslutty.com. And so it's a website that like I built and one of our friends like did some of the back end for. And we basically just like would take submissions from people of screenshots of sexist messages, and we would catalog them on this website and put them in different categories, like related to what kind of insult they were. But we would also tag the person who sent them. So in SEO, like if they're trying to like put out a montage or whatever to show what a good gamer they are, like we're going to tag them with their gamer tag, putting this abuse out there. So if somebody's looking for their montage, they're also going to find out what dirty little things they send women on Xbox Live. And so we built this website kind of like as a joke, because we're like, haha, wouldn't this be hilarious? But then like, guys were like, oh my God, this happens. I'm so sorry for all men. Like, I can't believe this happens. And we're like, okay, this has been my norm for like my entire gaming life. Right. But I mean, like we were on the front page of New York Times. We hit the front page of Reddit, which crashed our site. We did a Penny Arcade Expo panel, which like freaking sold out. The room was like full with like lines of hundreds of people out the door. So it was a really cool, like kind of thing we did to make the internet aware that this was an issue, but also do it in like a really fun, humorous way.
That's horrifying.
But I love this concept of like taking something that's shitty and turning it into an internet joke.
Yeah.
No, that's a fantastic response to it. Like so many people would just get like just over the top angry or offended or withdraw or whatever. Mm-hmm. And like taking it and putting a humorous spin on it and flipping it back and just saying, listen, this is ridiculous, but like, it's also like really funny.
Yeah.
these people are so over the top. Like, why does this thing exist? Let's all laugh at them.
Yeah.
I think that is perfect. That
Well,
is
one
so
of the
perfect.
cool things is like a lot of women like would start commenting on our post and they're like, oh my God, I thought I was the only one this happened to. Like, you're making me feel so much better that I'm not the only one. And so it's good for solidarity for women to like at least get a little fortitude from understanding, nope, this is kind of shit that we all deal with.
So how is this, maybe it isn't, is this changing at all with like multimedia streaming, all of this stuff that's happening right now in the gaming world with Twitch and like people like live broadcasting stuff? Is it changing at all?
I'm not sure. Like, I can tell you from even the time like that I started playing on Xbox Live to the time that we built Fat, Ugly, or Slutty, the amount of harassment I got like had reduced dramatically. And I think part of that is just because people realized, oh, women exist. Sometimes they're on the internet. But like our website had a serious impact. Like we were at GDC one year, and we were actually hanging out with a couple guys from Bungie who, they were working on Halo 3 at the time, and we let them put, we put the audio on the TV. And so we had our headsets on as women and we're playing in the hotel room, and they're hearing the kind of shit that we get from men. And they're like, oh my fucking God. And so that's why you couldn't hear players on the other team via voice chat in Halo 3. Is because they had learned from our experiences. And so it was really cool to have an impact and have game developers actually pay attention. Xbox Live, they found out about our website and they really started stamping down on abusive behavior and like updated the reporting process and did a lot of good stuff. Riot Games, which has their own internal drama, I don't know if you saw or not, but they did a lot of research and this was like years after like Fat, Ugly, or Slutty's heyday, but they did a lot of like data science work on curbing player behavior and curbing toxicity. So I think like as a whole, it's improving. That being said, I don't know. Twitch terrifies me. I haven't gotten onto that bandwagon yet. But I've heard some things.
I played a lot of Counter-Strike when I was in high school, and several times in my adult life, I've tried to go back to it. And like, oh, I remember it being so fun, and I want to go back and play. And I'm terrible because I haven't played in a long, long time. But the thing that kicks me away from it to this day is still the online community.
Really?
I listen to the people talking, and they're all like the most racist, sexist, bigoted, awful people I have ever encountered. And I'm just like, I can't even sit here. Like, it's not directed at me.
Yeah.
But I can't even sit here and listen to it. And I've quit every time. And that's happened with both the new Counter-Strike. I think there's Counter-Strike and Counter-Strike Go. And then I played it with Fortnite, and I played it with PUBG, and I heard it in all four.
Damn.
And so I'm back to single player games again.
Come play Halo with me.
Because people suck.
Oh, people suck. But I mean, like, I feel like people like to blame the internet or blame like video games, but this is a reflection of humanity, y'all. Like,
yeah, I didn't say games suck. I said people suck.
Yeah.
I just don't want to talk to people.
Yeah. Anyway.
So is it all Halo for you? Is that still your game?
God, I tried Fortnite and like I'm too fucking old for that shit. Like, not a huge fan of God, what's the other one that I'm blanking on right now? That's like Team Fortress, Overwatch.
Yeah.
Yeah, not my thing. The Hubs and I'll do Destiny off and on, like when I'm not traveling at conferences like a crazy person.
See, Destiny, I have the same problem with Destiny that I actually have with Halo.
Yeah.
So many of the levels are just like copy, paste. Like I'm running through the same goddamn cave for like fucking hours.
But I mean, that's kind of like World of Warcraft.
Yeah, I don't really play World of Warcraft.
Oh, okay. I did some WoW in my days. Yeah, I was going to say something and I just spaced. Meh. Oh, that's what I was going to say, is I also, like, a while ago, like, drunkenly ordered Donkey Kong 64.
Why does that even need to be a drunken order? That sounds totally
I don't know,
legit.
but, like, Sober Me was super fucking excited when this random package from Amazon arrived.
All right, I'm gonna use this perfect opportunity to actually like promote a friend of mine's game that's like this awesome party game that you should try.
Ooh.
If you have I assume you have a Nintendo Switch because you ordered Donkey Kong.
No, this is N64.
64.
Oh,
This
so
is
you
like
don't have
old school.
Well, it's out on Switch now. It's called
Okay,
it's called Joggernauts. I'll put a link in the show notes. Joggernauts, and it's a collaborative game. So you all get like really drunk and you're all playing, and it's just a side scroller. But everybody is like, you don't get to control the pace. Like the characters are moving forward at this pace, and you just have to switch so that the right color is in the front. And so that's the only control you have, is whether or not you are in the front. And it is so infuriating yelling at other drunk people in your party, like, hurry up and get to the front, get to the front. And it is a super, super fun game.
That sounds fantastic, and I will now endorse my husband buying a Switch, because he's like, I want to buy a Switch. And I'm like, you barely play half the shit you have. But that reminds me.
There are so many cool, infuriating like games, like party games for Switch.
Peggle? Okay, so Peggle, it's stupid. It's not worthy of being like a game on like a big platform, right? Because like you shoot the thing and you're trying to like, I don't know, like light up all the things. Anyway, most infuriating game. Like we would scream at each other playing against each other more than we ever did in Halo. It's hilarious.
What's it called?
Peggle?
Peggle.
And there's like a unicorn, and like it's like completely stoned people made this game. But yeah, it was like super infuriating to play against other people. Maybe it was Peggle 2. Was that the one on Xbox Live? I'm Googling now.
Yeah, this doesn't look like it has anything to do with unicorns. It kind of looks like pinball.
Yeah, it's like that, but there's like different characters you can play, and they have like different abilities.
All right, well then that is it.
Yes. Okay, yeah, definitely. That one was good. Ooh, also Battle Block Theater is another good one for a group of people. I feel like this would appeal to you because like it's done by Behemoth Studios, but like again, like some of the stuff like you're like, how high were these developers when they were writing this?
How do you stay high consistently that long to write and publish a whole video game?
Like the first boss fight is like this like terrifying creature coming through the forest, and like so it starts shaking and the screen starts shaking and all the animals in the forest like get scared, and there's this deer and it starts like shitting and the shit
I know what you're talking about. You're talking about
Castle Crashers. Sorry, Battle Block Theater is their newest game, but yeah.
Battle Block Theater is the new Castle Crashers.
Yes. Possibly crazier, like not quite as cute. Like I really like the Knights and Castle Crashers, but Battle Block Theater is pretty entertaining.
I will have to check that out.
I feel like we're gonna have to like do a game night after this.
I think so.
Yes.
It totally looks like it. I can't find a good link, but I found a video.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we've devolved into gaming gossip at this. Just bullshitting at this point. So let's outro the show and do our takeaways. David, what was your key takeaway for the show?
I have two takeaways. The first is that when people ask me which one of us is the script and which one of us is the style, I always thought I'd be the style, but it sounds like you're not writing much JavaScript. So you're the style.
I suppose that might be true. I do avoid writing JavaScript until I absolutely have to. If I can solve a problem with HTML and CSS, I do that first.
That's a fair point. My biggest takeaway is that KC Women in Tech sounds amazing. You see the name and you get the impression that it's like a local Madison meetup. Well, not Madison, obviously, but like a local meetup. But the fact that you have these programs for kids and the different ways that you can experience it, it's awesome. It's awesome. I'm gonna look for something around here for my kids because I think that would be great. And I always try and get my wife to do a little bit of code, but she doesn't seem interested. Maybe I can get her to do something like that. But again, KC Women in Code sounds amazing. It sounds so cool. And thank you so much, Jennifer, for creating it. Todd, how about yourself?
I really love Jennifer's attitude that went into making Fat, Ugly, or Slutty. I just have a special place in my heart for taking something that is upsetting and turning it into an internet joke. Anything that results in an internet joke is good for me. But if it was something neutral and turning it into an internet joke, I'd love it. If it's taking something that's awful and turning it into an internet joke, that's even better. And the internet is the perfect platform for jokes. It requires You can do so little commitment and make a funny joke, and you can do astronomically huge amounts of commitment and make a funny joke on the internet. And I think this is perfect. This was a perfect solution to that. Jennifer, you. What was your key?
takeaways?
Yeah, what's the takeaway or anything else you'd like to plug?
I don't know. I'm still a little upset that you haven't had kombucha before.
Well, I mean, we'll just have to fix that.
I know. I'm a kombucha pusher. I'm like, no, you haven't lived until you've tried kombucha.
You're such a millennial.
Oh, I know. It's so fucking obnoxious. Let me go get my avocado toast.
You said it.
Actually,
any conversations about millennials should be measured in time to avocado toast. Like how many sentences does it take before we get to avocado toast?
oh my god, that's fantastic. Yep.
All right. So your takeaway is that Todd needs to have kombucha.
Yes.
All right. The good takeaway. Okay. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. We had a great show about gaming and KC Women in Tech and jumping in React and Gatsby and all kinds of stuff. We'll post up the show notes with links to everything in the YouTube channel here in a few minutes. How should listeners get in touch with you if they'd like to learn more about you or your work?
Definitely on Twitter at OMG It's Fetty. I make no apologies for live tweeting The Bachelor when it starts up in January, or my website, jenniferwadella.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We are off next week. Well, David is off in Orlando visiting warmer climates, but we will be back soon the following week. If there's anything that you would like us to discuss or a guest you'd like us to talk with, please let us know on Twitter. Thanks so much for listening. I'm Todd Gardner.
I'm David Walsh. See you later.
Adios.